Welcome back everybody to my channel, and today we're going to be looking at another one of my aviation news roundups. So today's video we're going to be looking at what some of the notable events that happened in July of 2023, and this is actually episode 6 in this series. Now just so you guys know, I do have a computer screen behind here with some notes, so I may look at that every so often, so don't get weirded out if I look away from the camera. That's all it is, just making sure I stay on top of the notes I made so I don't lose track and wander and talk for hours about nothing. So as always, I'm going to have a bunch of links down in the description for a lot of the content I'm covering on here. So if you do want to see any of that, down below, like I said, you can't find all of it. But before we get too far into this, as always, my name is Sean, and this is Sean's Aviation. And just before we jump into the video, I want to say thank you for everybody who is out there who is watching this channel. If you haven't yet and you like what you see down below, subscribe, hit that notification bell. The notification bell will let all of you know when I release new content, which I do multiple times a month. So it's quite a bit of content coming out for you all to watch. Also, I'm getting very close to the 1,000 subscriber mark. Not very big channel, but I appreciate everybody who does subscribe. And please, if you do like what you're watching, hit that subscribe button. All of that does help me out in the long run. As you'll see, I have a bit of a different setup today. I've got some nice lights going on behind me here, trying to make these videos a little bit better for all of you to watch, so it's not such, get the production value up a little bit, as they say. So I'm working on that. As well, if you'd like to help out in a bit of a more concrete way, down below in the description, you'll see a link to my coffee account. I've always got a coffee on the go, and all of that does help offset some of my costs, especially with the traveling to the air shows. Again, don't feel obligated. I'm not begging for money. I do this because I enjoy what I do, and I get to take you along for the ride. All of that being said, let's jump right into here with the headlines. And I think the biggest headline on the aviation side of things, especially in Canada right now, is the delays. We are seeing massive delays across the air traffic network in both Canada and the United States. And in a lot of cases, it comes down to the air traffic control system. Both the FAA in the United States and NAV Canada here in Canada are suffering from shortages, manpower shortages, employee shortages, however you want to word it. They do not have enough employees to fulfill their mandates. And a lot of that happened during COVID, especially in Canada. FAA is a little bit of a different world, but up here in Canada, our air traffic system is managed by NAV Canada, and it's actually a private company. It's a not-for-profit private company that runs the navigation system, so it's not government money per se. They charge navigation fees, they charge service fees, and from that money they pay all of their employees, and they pay for the control towers, and they pay for the nav aids and all that other stuff. So especially during COVID, when everything ground to a halt, they saw a drop in revenue and they adjusted accordingly. So they started laying off staff, they changed projects, yada, yada, yada. Eventually, everything has spiked in the post-COVID world and they don't have enough staff. There was a lot of early retirement that happened. There was a freeze on hiring, a freeze on training of new air traffic controllers. And it takes a long time to train up an air traffic controller. It's not like a 1, 2 month, 3 months, 6 months. It takes a year or longer to go from nothing to an aircraft traffic controller, and they're way behind the 8 ball on this. So it's causing significant delays, and we've actually had IATA, the International Airline Transport Association, call out specifically FAA and NAV Canada, the Canadian government, and said, hey, fix this. Do what you can to make this work, and especially with the new passenger bill of rights. And I brought this up in the past, but this was IATA who actually was for some of these passenger bill of rights. Now, not always, because they are an airline representative, and the airlines don't necessarily like it, but they weren't totally against the passenger bill of rights because it clearly set out expectations for both sides of the coin. But in this case, especially with the way Canada has gone, it's very, very heavy on the airlines taking responsibility for things that they have no control over. And this is a perfect example where under the new passenger bill of rights, if an Air Canada flight gets delayed because of delays, like let's, for example, in Vancouver has been notorious for the past little while. They're short-staffed. There's constant air traffic and flow control into Vancouver because of lack of air traffic controllers. So if flights get canceled, an Air Canada flight from Toronto to Vancouver gets canceled because they can't get a slot time into Vancouver, well, now the airline has to pay all of the passengers for the delayed, strictly based off of the Air Passenger Bill of Rights. So a lot of people are saying, especially IATA called them out and said, you need to fix this. It's not the airline's fault. The airline shouldn't be paying for the delays because the air traffic control system can't keep up. So there's a lot of background going on, and we're really not privy to a lot of that high-level background stuff. But it's going to be interesting to see where all of that falls, because as I said, in the U.S. at least the FAA controls it. It's 100% government money. They can just throw money at the problem and solve it. But in Canada, not quite the same. There's an interesting dichotomy that happens there. So it'll be interesting to see how all that pans out. But either way, they need to figure something out because it's not going to be good, especially as we start to move into back to school is coming up, but we've also got Thanksgiving, you've got Christmas, you've got some pretty busy travel times in the next couple of months, and they better get stuff figured out now while it's relatively slow versus when it gets a little bit busier at the holidays. As well, while we're talking about airlines and aviation here, especially specifically in Ottawa, Air France, I think I might have mentioned before, has started service to Ottawa 5 days a week out of Paris, and it has gone spectacularly. In the first 2 weeks of the service, which was effectively 10 return trips or 20 legs, they carried an average of 200 people per leg, which it's astounding considering the plane only holds 220 people. That means the planes are basically full every leg on every flight. And I mean, that's awesome for our service. And Air France has committed to continuing through the winter and has actually announced that they're looking at upgrading to a 787 a little later in the year to get that capacity up, hopefully increase revenue for them. So that's an amazing turn. Now, that being said, I have been pretty steady working on getting pictures. I'm just going to take a quick look here at what I had. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then 9. I have 10 of the 15. I want to say that Air France flies. I have pictures of 10 of them. So the good news is, by the fall, I should have pictures of all of those Air France A330s. That being said, keep an eye out on Facebook. On my Facebook page, I have links down below on that as well. I'm going to be doing a post here quickly of all of my Air France pictures. That should be coming out soon. Just a quick shot of all the different Air France A330s I got in the past little while with this service into Ottawa. So that's just a plug for my own channel, but that's always fun. The other big headline that I picked up on in the past little while was a stash of warbirds found in the Ukraine. Now, there's been very little information out of this. There's been some rumblings and some talk. I haven't seen very many pictures. I don't know the condition. Not a lot of information, although I have a feeling that the Ukrainian government is trying to keep control of it. They don't necessarily want all the details to get out so that people don't show up and start trying to strip this stuff out ASAP. They're probably going to do it right and try to sell them properly on the open market if it's worth it. Again, I don't know condition. You know, it's one thing if it's a restorable airframe. It's another if it's just a couple of pieces of wing skin and whatnot. So, but I think I said they're keeping it under hat until they can do a proper inventory, get a proper, idea, and then they can go with the right route and make sure if it is available to sell and make some money, then they're definitely going to do it. But just from what we picked up here, they found the wreckage. So a bit of a backstory. The area they found it in was a known repair site during World War II for Russian aircraft. So when an aircraft got damaged, they got sent there and they were repaired and then put back to the front line. So a lot of aircraft were there. A lot of damaged stuff was put aside. At the end of the war, there was reports that a lot of this stuff, including viable airframes, just got bulldozed into the ground. Now, rumors like this have floated around for a while and, mostly have come up false. The story of the Spitfires in Burma is a big one. And, there's all these reports of, they were just bulldozed in the ground and we'll dig them up. And then it turns out to be nothing. Or, I found a piece of aluminum or there's a Merlin engine or whatever. But apparently this is actually legit. From what I can gather, it's legit. And they actually have some metal. It might not be in the best shape, but they have metal. But now the aircraft that have claimed to be found. Now, this isn't full airframes. This is just pieces of. But the aircraft types that are included in this discovery include Hurricanes, Spitfires, P-39s, P-40s, P-47s, A-20s, B-25s, as well as some other German types. And the German types haven't been announced yet. But you look at that list, things like P-47s, not a lot of those flying in the world right now, and there's not a lot in general. So if you can get enough wreckage to restore one, amazing. A-20s, again, a relatively rare airframe. There's only one flying in the world right now. So if you can get some of those out and about and have another airframe restored, that's huge. So if some, especially in hurricanes, again, the Hurricane and Spitfires are a hot commodity as well. So if this turns out to be legitimate and you get actual aircraft parts and they're viable airframes for restoration, this could change the warbird market for years to come. But time will tell. What did they find? What condition is it in? Is Ukraine even willing to sell on the open market? So that being said, I will keep you guys informed. This will probably be a comment if there's updates. Will definitely be included in future updates on this channel. So stay tuned on that stuff. So that wraps up the majority of the big headlines that I personally saw. As always, if you guys have any ideas of stuff you think I should talk about or missed, down below, I'll have a link to my news email. You can send me a link there. You can hit me up here on messages over on Facebook. You can send me a message. However you want to get the info to me, by all means. If there's things you think I should be talking about, let me know and I'll talk about it. So moving on to a few events. The big one for me anyways is Thunder over Michigan. It's next week. This video should be coming out, it might actually be this week, depending on what day. It's currently Saturday, August the 5th. So Thunder over Michigan is literally a week today. This video, I'm not sure if it's going to release Saturday, Sunday, Monday, somewhere in that time frame, the 5th, 6th, 7th. But like I leave for Michigan on the 10th. It's very, very close. Now, there have been some changes to the schedule in the past month. There's been some shuffling of some P-51s. One of them, Glamorous, so Ain't Misbehavin', was broken, couldn't make it, and then they've got the Old Crow, the P-51D Old Crow was added, but then Glamorous Glen 3 couldn't make it. So we're down to, if my math is right, 9 P-51s in total, and 6 of them will be painted up in 357th Fighter Group colors. I'll put a link in the description to the website, and I'll probably have the scrolling here as I talk, the scrolling of the aircraft list so you guys can get a good look at it. There's also been 2 CF-18s from Bagotville added. There's 2 Ohio F-16s that'll be on static, as well as a Canadian CT-156 that'll be on static, and a few other newer aircraft in there as well. But the big ones, we've lost a few. As I mentioned, we lost 2 of the P-51s, Glamorous Glen 3, as well as Ain't Misbehavin'. We also lost the 4 Oregon F-15s. They could not make it. The Dakota Territory P-47 was canceled. I'm very upset about that. I was really, really looking forward to see that airplane. So I'm hopeful it might just be a snag that they get repaired in time and it surprises us. We'll wait and see, but I was really looking forward to that one. The Mildenhall KC-135 from Europe was also canceled. Again, that was on the top of my list of things I was interested to see. There's also a few others that have lost. As I said, if I haven't yet, there's a list and you can go to the link and take a look for yourself. Now, there's also some rumors that the F-35Bs, the U.S. Marine F-35s from Yuma, are supposed to be doing some training over the course of the weekend. So they're going to be flying on and off over the weekend. So they might take off during the show and then come back later in the show, or take off before the morning show and come back during the break. But they're planning to fly over the course of the weekend and go do some training, probably with stuff out of Selfridge. But that would be amazing if we could get some F-35Bs flying. I'm there. And then you add in things like Randy Ball and the MiG-17, and you got the MiG-23, you know what I mean? And you got Fifi, and you got everything else, and the F-22 demo, and there's quite a bit in this show, and there's a lot of static. So it's going to be a good show, and I'm hopeful. I'm there all day Friday in the photo pit and all day Saturday in the photo pit, as well as the Saturday night shoot. So again, that's a week from today. So moving into the end of this month, into next month, I should have a ton of content to put up on this channel. And there's some surprises coming as well, so keep your eyes out for that stuff. It's going to be coming out. The next one after that's going to be London. It's the weekend of, it's a month after. It's September 10th, London, Ontario. And they've had a ton of stuff announced in just even the past week, let alone the past month. So earlier in July, we had 10 more F-16s confirmed. So there's 14 F-16s that are going to be at this show as of right now that are confirmed. There's going to be 4 Colorado Air National Guard flying in the show, 4 Holloman Air Force Base, and 2 South Dakota Air National Guard on static, as well as 4 from Arizona. So 4 Colorado Air National Guard F-16s flying in the show Friday and Saturday, and then 4 Holloman, 2 South Dakota, and 4 Arizona F-16s all on static for the course of the weekend. Also announced, we had a KC-135 and an MC-130J flying in the show. The MC-130 is only on Friday and Saturday, but it's still, they're scheduled to fly. We've also got 4 Oregon F-15s, the same ones that canceled for Michigan, have now been added to the show in London. So they're going to be there. The KC-46 will be on static, and a Missouri Air National Guard C-130J will be on static. So again, if I haven't, I've probably been adding a quick video of the website with me scrolling in the video, and I'll put a link down below so you can go over there and keep track of that on yourself as you're on your own. As well, keep an eye on my Facebook page. As soon as I get updates on Facebook, I'm sharing them to my Sean's Aviation Facebook page. So you can stay there if you want to get last minute updates for all of that, or you can go to their website and you can sign up and they'll send you emails as well. But I'm making sure everyone's staying informed. So then there's also, right after that, the next weekend actually is Aero Gatineau-Ottawa. Not too much new has been announced for that. I'm actually jumping in right now. I'll just jump to the website, see if there's been any updates. I haven't checked their website in a while, but it doesn't hurt to take a quick look and see. But yeah, so they still got KC-135 flying in the show, 737 flybys, bunch of warbirds. Nothing too new announced in the flying lineup. I've got the inside track on a few things that I can't talk about publicly. Obviously, I've been involved with that air show for years. So all I'm going to say is stay tuned. There should be some more announcements coming out for Aero Gatineau-Ottawa with some pretty cool aircraft as time goes on. But yeah, we got an A400 on static, CL415 on static, a P8 Poseidon on static, as well as a smattering of warbirds and GA stuff. So it's going to be a really cool show. But again, I know that's why I had to be careful what I said, because I've been told things in confidence and I don't want to release them early. So I'm just going off the website to make sure I don't jump too far ahead on that. But Aero Gatineau is also going to be an interesting show. So I'm looking forward to that. So I still got 3 air shows to go this year. Next year, I've mentioned this a few times before, 2024 is the RCAF's 100th anniversary. It's going to be a big year. And there's a bunch of air shows announced for that. Trenton is going to have an air show next year with that. And Gatineau has already told me that they were working on some spectacular plans for next year. I've also been told by, again, some inside information from a number of different people within foreign air forces that there might be some foreign air forces coming. But until stuff is officially announced, I don't want to say too much. But it's going to be an interesting year next year for air shows. And again, I'll keep everybody up to date here so anybody in North America can plan and travel to get to see some of what is going to be an amazing year next year in both Canada and the US. Incidences, now surprisingly, there's been quite a few of incidences in the past month. A lot of little stuff, nothing really significant, but a lot of little events that keep happening that catch my eye. And I'm not going to inundate the channel with just crashes. There's channels out there that do that. And I don't want to make this channel only about crashes. But it's a big part of aviation. It's usually the part of aviation that makes the news. So I'm usually going to try to share stuff that doesn't usually make the news as often. And there's 3 that happened in the past month, surprisingly, that caught my eye. And they always say things happen in 3, and you don't usually see it. There's 3 warbird crashes in the past month. And that's something you don't normally see a lot of. So the first one was a P-40 out west. It was actually a P-40 I had seen before. It in 2009 when I was at Oshkosh, it actually won Best Fighter. No, Grand Champion. It won Grand Champion at Oshkosh the same year the Vintage Wings P-40 won Best Fighter. So it stole Best Fighter from our P-40, which was a little annoying at the time. But that P-40 has since crashed. And from as best as we can tell, it sounds like he had engine troubles on takeoff. He bellied it into a field, and for whatever reason, he didn't make it. The pilot was killed in the crash. The aircraft doesn't look too bad. There was a post-crash fire, which is always a little hard to deal with, especially in these warbirds. It's not easy to get out of, especially if you get knocked out or you're injured or whatnot. So that happened. The aircraft, as I said, was initially part of the Fagan fighters. And the pilot who was killed was well known in the warbird scene, especially kind of in the Midwest and the northern states in the Midwest. Minnesota, North Dakota, all that kind of stuff. So he was a pretty well-known pilot, and it's unfortunate. But that happened. And then not too long after that, we had a Grumman Wildcat in England. It had just come out of restoration just earlier this year and was painted up in a North Africa scheme, a desert tan over a PRU blue. Really cool looking plane, and not something you see usually on the warbird market, especially it was really cool. Let's just say that. I was very surprised when I saw the paint scheme and everything else, and literally within a couple of weeks of it getting on the flying circuit, it flipped over on landing on a grass airfield. Now again, the pretty difficult aircraft to fly in at the best of times and whatnot, but yeah, pilot survived. John Romaine was the pilot. He survived. He was injured, but he's back in the cockpit flying again within a few weeks, so it wasn't too serious. But that aircraft just out of restoration and flipped over. And then again, within days of that happening, John Sessions in Seattle put his Spitfire Mark V up on its nose. It was a Czech Air Force markings Spitfire Mark V, and it nosed up on the airfield. Again, he was fine, but it's just It was amazing. It was just one after the other. These warbird incidents started rolling in, and it was just, you don't normally see stuff like that. So it's kind of a weird couple of weeks, but anyways. And then Oshkosh happened. I wasn't there. Obviously, I want to start going back. I got to get back to Oshkosh. I've only been there once, and it is bothering me every year. I see stuff come out of Oshkosh, and I wish I was there. But anyways, there was a couple of accidents in Oshkosh as well. A couple of fatal ones, and a couple of that were higher profile in the warbird market. But overall, I think Oshkosh was a smashing success. They broke records. They were busy. There was tons of cool stuff. Pictures were amazing, but I'm just mumbling because I really wanted to go to Oshkosh this year. But anyway, so that kind of wraps up the news section here on this channel. As always, I just mentioned it a while ago. If you have anything you want me to bring up, let me know. Facebook message, comment here on YouTube, send the email. I'm going off memory here. I believe it's news@seansaviation.com. I'll have the link down below in the description, so you can send me emails if there's anything you want me to talk about. And then, yeah, like I said, moving forward for the channel, we have quite a bit scheduled. I'm just going to jump over to the YouTube channel now. So I'm keeping track of what exactly I do have going on. But yeah, so all 4 of the model kits I was working on. If you haven't seen what's on my desk, it just came out a few days ago. I go into detail in there as well if you haven't seen that. But all 4 of the models I was working on are finished. So those time-lapse build part 2s are coming up. I've started to work on new models, so they're going to be coming up. And as I mentioned, I have Thunder over Michigan, and I'm bringing this video camera, and I have a new shotgun mic, and I have handle, and I have the whole plan, and I'm going to try my best to come back with as much content and video and pictures as I possibly can to keep all of you guys out here interested in this channel and whatnot. Like I said, I have a few surprises coming that I'm hopeful everybody will be very excited to see. So on that note, I'm going to wrap it up. So thank you all for watching. I've got a history of 423 Squadron is due out on the middle of the month on August 15th. And around that, I have a whole bunch of these time-lapse the part 2s coming out for those 4 kits, the Spitfire and the 3 A26s. And then there'll be airshow content smattered in there as well. I'll get some shorts up from the show, and I'll do whatever. And Facebook will have stuff. And very quickly, I want to get at least some basic content coming out. And then I'll spend the time going through and making some really good content later and getting the videos edited and whatnot. So stay tuned to this channel, and thank you all for watching. We'll see you next time.